Hey. I honestly always have to do this because clearly I'm the first one who gets on because I use the Not Your Typical Girl Talk page. And my ladies are coming on. Here they are. Hey. Like I actually get... Hi, ladies.
Hi.
What is
No welfare supporters, more conscious of the way we raise our daughters. Days are shorter, nights are colder. Feel like these things. My son got hot. Evidently, he's elementary. They want us all. Without a statement, break knowledge. It's overlooked without the garbage. We don't have.
I love that because we're gonna do what?
Designing flows, lacing your click up with diamond rolls. Your people rolling dough, no parole, no rubbers. Going to imagine law with no undercovers. Just applause for the mind. I think imagine that.
I see a you guys are singing. Black diamond girl. It's all the world. Hey. Happy Saturday.
Well, happy Saturday.
Saturday. It is Saturday. We made it almost through a whole week again.
We did. Thank God. We're all still here.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
Right?
We did it.
We're still here. Woo, girl. Hallelujah. All the day.
So this one's going to be a topic, and I feel like I'm already putting out a disclaimer because I'm going to be very clear. I'm going to look at this topic from all angles. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be devil's advocate today because it is a sensitive topic. It is a topic that we needed to talk about because, of course, there's been highlights about what's happening now that everybody's on lockdown. But we also have to think, because I've read some articles that I didn't necessarily agree with. So I'm putting out the disclaimer, everybody. I'm looking at this from different angles. I'm not going to say which one's my personal opinion, but I'm going to throw different things out there. So I'm going to do that disclaimer.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And I think that to be honest, the healthy way to look at any situation, regardless of how tough it is to be able to at least hear the other perspective and then be able to argue it in an intelligent, respectful manner. As we do as friends all the time.
That's it.
All the time.
To also remember that everyone has a right to their own opinion. I mean, it's a free, thankfully we still live in a free world. So it's important that everyone has their words and their opinions made clear, and it should be respected regardless.
Awesome. And that's what our platform of our show is built on, right? It's about being able to share different perspectives from everyone. And with this new platform, we do encourage anyone who is watching, if you want to join and you have a perspective, you just click on the, try to request to join, and we'll bring you into the conversation because we want to hear a perspective. So this episode is entitled, because I don't even remember, I have to look over now. It's where is there to run when there's no place to go. Abuse in the home. So it's very clear. Before we get into the topic, I wanted to get, because I just did some quick research, as you ladies know that I like to do, and I want to get some of the stats that I got just completely out of the way, and then we can jump into the conversation. So some of the stats in the home. It's funny, I didn't know that domestic abuse was being referred to as intimate terrorism. So that was a term, that was a term I learned when I was doing my research, was that it's called intimate terrorism. And when you hear that, you go,
that sounds very invading.
That's a good dose of truth there.
Right?
Wow.
It was very different than domestic abuse, because I was like, when you think about being terrorized in your own home, right? By an intimate partner. Whether and intimacy isn't just the male-female relationship or the actual intimate relationship, but even the abuse when a child is being abused, their parent is the most intimate person that's closest to them, and they're being abused. So there's a couple of stats that came out that I thought was interesting. Since COVID-19, there's a couple of countries that I'm going to quote. So one was Spain saw a rise in domestic violence by 18% in the first 2 weeks of their lockdown over the same period the month before. French police said there was a nationwide spike of about 36% calls of domestic violence. In Britain, they reported it was up 25%. So, there was just a lot of countries, and of course, I didn't get all the stats from China. China didn't have their full stats, surprise. But, I did read an article, too, where, of course, the domestic abuse went up in China as well. And, of course, in Italy. Italy started providing hotel rooms to the victims because, of course, the shelters are either overpacked or with the COVID-19 and the social distancing, you can't have, the 2-to-a-room or different families in a room that you did before. So in every country across the world, you were seeing a massive increase in domestic violence. Well, why were we seeing a massive increase in domestic violence? Because people are home. They have no place to run.
That's it.
And the reality is, it's very simple, right? And then if you think about it, if you are a child that's being abused, generally, where is the abuse going to be reported? When you go to school.
Exactly.
Well, if you're not going to school, then you're finding that all of a sudden the calls are now to the police or people are trying to escape to the shelter. And there was a quote that I really liked, and it was from a victim from a CTV interview, and she simply said, "Don't think about where you're going, just leave." Because it's at the point where it's been recognized that some people really may die because of the fact they're now trapped with their abuser. And another stat that I wanted to read before we go into the actual show, which, God bless Canada. Because at the end of the day, Canada has done a lot to help Justin Trudeau, love him, hate him, whatever you might think about him. He's stepping up as a leader, and he's doing a lot. So Justin Trudeau has given $40 million to Women and Gender Equality Canada. $30 million was supposed to go to over 500 women's shelters, and the remaining 10 was specifically going to Indigenous women and children's shelters. So there is money that's being put into recognizing that domestic violence is on the rise globally. So I wanted to put those stats out. So in every country, when I started doing research, of course, it spiked. Now to the discussion, because I have some interesting thoughts. But I'll let you ladies respond to those stats that I just put out there.
Do you want to go first, or?
I mean, I'm sure that no one is shocked that these are, tremendous numbers. Everyone's used to not really seeing their spouse or is not seeing their kids. You wake up in the morning, everything's good, and then everyone goes about their business. Kids go to school, parents go to work or whatever, and then everyone's gone for 8 hours of the day. Everyone comes back home, you catch up, you eat dinner, you go to bed. And it's the same thing over and over again. And this is just for families who are good. I'm not going to talk about the ones that, are already going through the hell already. But for those same good families, now with this happening, it's unfortunate and it's almost inevitable that there will be heads knocking when you see that person every day. We've all been on lockdown now for, some countries since, I think, December. Some countries have already been on lockdown. I know that China's already been through it.
Yeah.
And, we're going into month 2. So I think some places have already been in their month 2 for a long time. And, you see that same person every day. You start snapping at each other, and next thing you know, the police are at your door. Yeah. Exactly. So, I mean, and that's just the good families. And now when it comes to the ones that are getting abuse already, I really feel for the kids because, school, I used to hate school growing up. But then again, I come from thank God, I come from a family, I come from a home where everything is good. But oh my gosh, I feel for the kids that they had to go through the abuse at home. They get tormented by their parents or whoever their caregiver is. And school was their haven. School was their church, their place of nirvana. That's where they could unload to their teacher or their counselor and be at peace, even for those little hours. And now with, being stuck in the house with the enemy, it's kind of like, shoot, what do these kids do? I mean, yes, you can run away. Well, thankfully now they have these programs set up where kids and mothers and husbands can go if they're getting violated. But I don't know, man. I mean, it's tough. I don't know. I don't know how one can, it's not like you can go to counseling, because right now everyone's kind of social distancing. I mean, yes, you can go on your phone and do some kind of virtual thing, like how we're doing it. But once again, as soon as the phone goes down, as soon as the camera turns off, you're still in the same situation. You're still in the same problem.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I think that, unfortunately, in situations like the one we're in now, we have a bunch, unfortunately, of new families that are now entering this scope of abuse. And my first, when I think about this, the first person I think about is the kid that would always run to Tim Hortons if you're in Canada, or you'd run to Starbucks, and you would sit there for 2-3 hours to wait until, mom or dad fell asleep and then go home. Or, wait for them to, drink too much and then pass out and then come home, because that's the safest time to come home. You don't want to deal with them when they are coherent and angry. And now that's been stripped away. There is no place to run or hide, as our topic has said. And there is no real way of communicating with the people that you could communicate with before. So your sanctuary, what should be your sanctuary, is now a war zone. Mm-hmm. And it's terrifying because even though we are physically distancing and, we...
Oh, I lost the ladies. I'm hoping they will come back. I will continue with until they get back. But I think the situation is, of course, now that we are physically distancing, we're in a situation where we cannot run away. There is no running away. There is none of that. And so now you're put in a position where are you gonna go?
Sorry.
You don't have a place to go. It's okay. I'm sorry about that. Now that you guys are back.
So yes. So looks like Instagram doesn't like what we're talking about. But just to say, my point was basically that with no resources of people connecting physically, we now have a problem where people who probably always felt alone and isolated, now they truly are alone and isolated. Yeah. And there is no place for victims to go to. And it's a very sad situation. And I do commend the governments that are trying to do what they can do to make safe havens for people that are in this situation.
And I agree. And what was interesting in the article that I was reading, well, several of them that I read, is that there are resources, of course, that are available, and there's still, the phone lines, and I think, the kids hotline and so forth. They, tried to get more volunteers to be able to have discussions with people. But the reality is, when you call, you're not getting the same person, right? And you're not going to get Toshiba every time you call. You're not going to get Kelly or Sherry or Carcy every time you call. You're going to get someone else. So that bond that they would have maybe had with a teacher or a counselor or so forth, that's completely stripped away from them. Yeah. And the reality is now you're stuck at home, so you're whispering on the phone, or you're doing all of that. Your abuser comes in, you're hanging up. Like there's this terror. There's a terror that lives inside of you when you constantly have to be on edge, and you're wondering, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? What is going to happen? Because anything could trigger the abuser. And, Kelly, you made a great point. There are families right now who were fine, quote unquote, changed. So people are jobless. Income is being lost. Even if one parent may still have their job, the other person's income is gone. You are now dealing with mothers and fathers who have to teach their children. So you compound all of that stress onto an already maybe fractured situation.
Absolutely.
And let's be honest, honestly, the liquor stores are still open. I'm sorry. I'm just going to go. I'm going to go there.
The
liquor store is still open because it's an essential service.
Yes, they are open.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, not everyone is a happy drunk.
No.
And the situation that was brought to my, awareness, which is true, they said they just don't want people basically having to clog the hospital systems coming in with, dinners because people haven't drank, and then we have a bunch of, situations where withdrawals, and that clogs up the hospital system, that clogs up the medical system. So they're like, let's just keep giving them alcohol so we can focus on the COVID-19 matters, which and that's just, I'm not going to fight the medical industry on what they think is best.
I agree. I mean, I know that they have to put COVID-19 first because it's clearly the pandemic, but the three of us have been talking about this where, this is going to also give birth, though, to a lot of alcoholics. Like some people that probably already recovered from being an alcoholic are now being thrown back into alcoholism all over again. And it's like a depressing cycle that won't stop. You know what I mean?
Because one adds to another, adds to another. And listen, when they made the list of essential services and the liquor store was on it, and I forgot the lady's name who was on it, because I asked her, like, why is the liquor store an essential service? And she went into her basically spiel that you said, and I said, listen, I would rather you tell me that the liquor store brings in millions of dollars and you need those millions of dollars to go back into the economy because you're giving people $2,000 a month. Tell me that. So I'm going to play devil's advocate because that's not my problem. You being an alcoholic and having to go through withdrawals, that sounds like a you problem, and it sounds like a you problem that we're all now paying for because you add alcoholism to be inside of a house that you are now stuck, and you've got children and wives and husbands and boyfriends and girlfriends and whomever who are now being abused because you're saying that you don't want people to go through withdrawal and clog up the system. Well, it's either somebody goes through withdrawal or they drink too much and they actually end up killing someone else because of the abuse that's happening. So it is a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I mean, that is also fair. I mean, for someone that, I was very fortunate to grow up in a home where it's like drinking is basically, if you need a bit of white rum, to chase away the cold, that's the alcohol that we have in our house, and that's about it. I personally, I don't even understand really. There's always, as I believe, there's always a deeper issue that
And so if you tell me, could you guys hear me this whole time?
No.
You guys are sitting, okay? Because I'm like, so I'm saying that I completely get, I'm going to go back to, I can get the financial piece of keeping the liquor store open. I just can't, I'm not buying for me personally, I can't.
No,
it doesn't resonate with me because I'm like, that sounds like a you problem. And there are a lot of people who are saying, well, that sounds like you problem. The reality is there's also a lot of people saying about the abuse abuse in the home, especially when it's between spouses and partners, and you should have thought about that before you stayed in a relationship that was abusive. Let's talk about that, because there is that part of that, right? There
and that's the thing where, I mean, a lot of people are saying a lot of things, you know, like for years and years, we've had people come and say, you know, you should always make sure that you have 3 months worth of your rent and 3 months worth to live. And now people are discovering that they didn't have that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're all out here saying these are the things we're doing. And now this has popped up, and now we're all being exposed as to,
none of us were ready.
You weren't saving your money. You were in a relationship that's toxic. And now here we are. What are we going to... And I sympathize, because there's a part of me that does sympathize with all of these things and issues and that we're all dealing with as humans. But at the same time, will we feel this way if a child ends up getting thrown down the stairs because Sarah has tried to leave her relationship 3 times, and they say it takes at least 7 attempts before a woman or a man leaves an abusive relationship, and this kid dies, and we learn that it's because we were all told to stay home. You know, the human side of you is going to say, like, holy hell, you mean there was nothing that anyone could do for this poor child? Like, why was this child in this situation? And it's so unfortunate. And I know even growing up, I remember a lot of situations where kids were found, you know, dead due to abuse. Child abuse, You know, the kid had come in from another country and their step-parents abused them, and then the kid ends up, you know, getting thrown down the stairs, getting beat in the head with some sort of appliance
of some kind.
And it's sad. Like, this, you know, we're not going to deny the sadness that comes along with this. But, I mean, all we can truly do when it comes to that is educate women and say, this is toxic. This is bad. You don't need to be in this situation. You need to move on. But if that person is not going to take on the learnings...
It's like trying to pour into water and they won't drink it.
You know, it's like the advice that the woman from the CTV news piece said, you know, run. You don't know where you're going, but just run. And I also want to say, as this is my belief of empowerment, you are at cause. Now, your 2 decisions might suck. Both of them might suck, but you are at cause.
And listen, for me as a mother, my own personal story I was in a relationship, he was more emotionally abusive than anything. And I consider myself a very strong person. So he gave it, I gave it back. You know what, like we'd actually gotten into fights. And he was like 6'3", 200-something pound military guy. Like, I work out for a reason. Like, I gave it as much, and I was in a country. I lived in the U.S. at the time. I lived in Las Vegas, and one day, out of just everything, I was like, this, no. And it wasn't an everyday thing. It was, but when we got into arguments, they were bad. They were really bad arguments. I picked up, I left Vegas, and I didn't even come back to Canada. I moved to Louisville, Kentucky, where I knew one person. I got my daughter, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna go. And he thought I was going for a vacation. I just never, ever went back. I knew one person. I was not in a place to even, I'm putting my business out there. I wasn't even in a place to work legally in the U.S., but I found a way to survive, because at the end of the day, for me, I was like, one, my daughter's watching, and she was, luckily for us, she wasn't there for most of it, because she was usually at school or something. But I think there was one argument that we had where she was there, and I was like, never again would I put her in a situation where she has to be locked in a room. No. And that for me was, and again, I can only speak for me. You have to be strong enough that if you're not going to do it, you have to do it for your child, because your children or your child did not ask to be in the situation. And I had no real financial resources to be able to leave. And quite frankly, everything that I couldn't put in a suitcase, he threw away. Wow. He threw them, burned them, whatever he did with them, right? Like, they're gone. Never, like, dresses and memories and all of that was gone. And for me, it was like, I don't want to be in a situation where my daughter ever had to be in that place again. And that was a decision that I needed to make, because she should not be in that position. Whatever choice I wanted to make as a woman, that's fine. But for your child, and that's, I guess for me, that's where that I sympathize. And I get, because there are so many factors why somebody stays in an abusive relationship. We look at, immigrant women who come here, who don't either speak the language, understand the laws, in their countries, police aren't great people. I mean, in our country, police ain't great people, but, in their country, police aren't the best, so they're not going to call the police. There's all these different things that happen. You get people who are again, like me, maybe not have the financial resources, and so they've got a spouse who is the breadwinner, and they think, if I go out there, there's all of these different factors. Toshiba by herself and not a mother, if that's what I want to continue to be in, Toshiba, as a mother who has a child, you got to make a decision for your child. And Parthia, you said it on our call. This is about the reevaluation of your life choices. What are you going to choose? Because at this point, it's life or death. Exactly. There's a lot of women right now, those are the two choices they have right now. Or what are they going to choose? Are they going to choose your life and your children's life, or your child's life? Or are you going to choose to stay in this relationship and actually end up dead?
Yeah, because you have to start looking at it as in, we could be all, staying at home till September or longer.
I reconcile
and I'm being optimistic, right? So when I say that, think about your current situation and think about your life a year from today. So think about your life next year, April 18th, 2021. What will your life look like because you decided today to stay in that toxic relationship, stay in that toxic home? And if you do that and you really think about it, you will run without knowing what direction to run to, but you will run. Which, at this point, you would be better off running and knocking on the door at some community center somewhere and saying, look, this is my situation. I have a child and the clothes on my back.
And, we're fortunate to live in a country where that's even an option. And I think that's another part, right? Like, we recognize that there's some countries that it is almost abuse against women is almost ingrained in that society. And we'll talk about those countries, but we know of
why aren't you abusing?
Yes. Yep. Right? This is not the case for the most part North America, right? And most parts of, Europe or so forth. That isn't the case where that is the thing. So for me, my difficulty in, again, whatever you want to do as the individual, as the woman, that's fine. But when you have a child and when you have children and when you are going to, sit back and potentially watch your child get abused emotionally, physically, sexually, whatever, because there's all levels of abuse that's happening. And the reality is emotional abuse can be just as impactful.
Yeah,
you're a mindset coach. You know it.
Emotional abuse sometimes can be worse. Because at least if you box me in the face, people can see that. But when you insult someone inside, girl, no one can see that, and that hurts.
Yeah, I mean,
emotional abuse is horrible.
Unfortunately, it's unforgivable. That it messes with the foundation, which is your mindset.
That's it.
That's where the negative self-talk comes from. That's where the low self-esteem comes from. It comes from what the world on the outside is doing to you. And if you are living with someone that is constantly telling you that you
on repeat, you're crap, you're garbage, you're nothing without me, you can't survive without me, planting these horrific negative
keep you in depression, and it will kill you.
Definitely.
Whether they kill you or whether you kill yourself.
And it's funny you guys say that, because those words, you gotta remember, like, COVID, this lockdown is like prime real estate for an abuser. Because a lot of them, their main thing is to separate you from those that you love. Right? That's how it normally starts. You start getting drifting further and further and further away from people who would be able to recognize the signs that, you know what, Toshiba isn't the person. That's what's going on. Like, you know what I'm saying? You guys have known me for long enough to be like, Toshiba, something's going on. Right. But if all of a sudden I'm drifting because my partner's like, you don't need those people, you only need me. Let me, move your way to this place. And so, your friends are like 45 minutes or 60 minutes away, so they can come compete. Let me all of these things happen.
Completely just isolate.
Isolating, exactly. Now you've got total isolation.
I'm trying to hook up with you on Zoom. What's up?
Yeah.
My internet doesn't work. It's broken. My man or my woman told me that we can't afford internet right now, so I don't have internet. And the excuses and the building up and the excuses and now is the prime it's prime real estate for abusers to have their thumb down on where their victims are, and it's a sad situation.
It's extremely sad. And
as much as we want to help them, it really is, after this pandemic is done and after the hotels open the doors and say, thank you very much, everyone, you all need to go home now, then what?
Yeah.
Because you lived you lived somewhat of a freer life. In lockdown, and then now you're being told that, okay, hotel stay's done, you've got to go back home now.
Back to the health
and it's like,
that you were in.
At this point, now what do you do? So
because again, financially you're potentially stressed, right? And stressed and stretched.
Yeah.
Because again, this $2,000, whatever people are getting, that's only going to last so long. There are so many factors that will happen, and you hope again that it's a reevaluation of life choices. The situation we're in is an accumulation of all the choices we've made in our life. Good, bad, and different, whatever you may say. I'm sitting on this couch right here, right now, because an accumulation of the life choices that I have made.
That's it. Exactly.
Not all of them have been good. Okay.
No,
but they are what they are.
And they
right?
won't.
So now you are in a state where if you had tried to ignore it, because again, if your child can go to the Tim Hortons or the Starbucks or go to school, or you still have friends or you have a therapist or some resources, you might say, you know what, I have all of these things, and so it's not so bad.
Right.
Yes, he says terrible things to me. He says terrible things to the kids when he's drunk, but it's not so bad because I have somewhere else to go. I've got people to talk to. Now you disconnect all of that.
That's it.
It's just you and the abuser.
Yeah.
24/7.
It's like this one's like locked. You're locked down.
And when I think of women, and I know that this works for any sort of couple. It doesn't matter whether they're heterosexual or, in LGBTQ community or whichever sort of relationship you are in. The women that usually finally, maybe after 7 or 8 times try to leave, the ones that do, they started doing their groundwork. And what they would do is they would wait for their abuser to go to work, wait for him to go out to wherever with his friends or her friends, whomever it is. And that's when you would start to do your planning. You'd get on Google. You'd find out, how do I do this? How do I do that? How can I get new papers? How can I get in touch with so-and-so? What, associations are out there that I can join that can help me to leave? That can be waiting outside of the house with a truck and help me move my things quickly to get out. But now, nobody's got that time alone anymore to sit online or, I don't mean to pull up a pop culture reference right now, but you think of Sleeping with the Enemy, where Julia Roberts, she was taking swimming lessons.
When he went to work, she was learning how to swim.
Because it was part of her plan to get out of that relationship, and she had that time alone to go learn how to do things to get away eventually. But now, victims don't have that time alone to go learn things and pick up skills and make those calls, and prep to get away from their abusers. So that means,
and their network is gone, right? Those people who, you know, it's almost like an underground railroad for you know, abuse victims, right? That underground railroad is dismantled because there's, you know, all those people are also on lockdown. Yes. And for all you know, now your network is at risk of also being abused because, again, you've got all of the additional things that this lockdown, you know, and I keep saying that, like I keep saying, you know, you guys see me and I talk about it all the time. We forget how blessed you are sometimes.
Girl,
you forget how blessed you are that your house is even a good option for you.
Yeah, I mean,
people take it for granted.
It is a blessing, and every night when I do write the gratitude portion of my journal, the first thing I usually put is grateful for my home. I'm very blessed.
The people you live with.
Yeah, very lucky to live in a home where I'm free. There's enough space in this home where I can literally be in a room by myself all day without being interrupted. It's a blessing, and I'm very grateful for it. Many people don't have that privilege.
Don't have that.
So if at all, we should all become a bit more grateful that for those that do have peace in their home, thank God, because that is not the case for most people. I'm sure that, you know, when Justin Trudeau came on TV and said, you know, we are advising everyone to stay home, some people were like, they weren't worried about how am I going to educate my kid.
No.
They weren't worried about how am I going to feed everybody. They were worried about,
my
God, how am I supposed to stay with him or her for 12
God knows
hours
how long
in the day when they're
24/7.
What am I going to do? It's bad. It's not.
Imagine people that live in tiny homes.
Yeah, like living in a.
You don't have a lot of space, right? You already. It's almost like you just keep adding layers and layers and layers, and it's like everything. And if your foundation is already unstable, this was like the dynamite that blew everything up.
Girl, yeah.
And then again, the liquor store is open. So I'm sorry, I know I'm harping on the liquor store.
Because the liquor gives people fuel to just go crazy. And I mean, some people are, when they get drunk, they fall asleep. Some people, they get hella happy and start laughing for no reason. But then you have those angry drunks where they take like, just one sip even. They don't need a lot to set off, and it's just...
Actually, that brings me to the point of, they said, the next pandemic to come, after COVID is the mental health issues that are going to come. Because for people that are home alone, now this is not our topic, but they're home alone, and all they have is alcohol.
That is an abuse issue. They're going to develop a substance abuse issue.
Even when you think about the people that are like suicidal, maybe they used to go somewhere, maybe they used to go to a center for help,
to the park,
but now it's them, and they see the razor blade. They're tempted to cut themselves. Like, there's so many things. The self-abuse, I forgot about that, actually. Yeah, the whole self-abusive thing. The bad talking to yourself.
Yeah, negative talking. Yeah. You're not in a routine where you're getting up and, okay, let's get up, let's take a shower, let's make breakfast, let's put on a new outfit, let's, go do something. Okay, I'm going to work on some art, or then I'm going to do this, I'm going to clean this. Some people aren't grasping on to that. And because they're not, they could be abusing themselves. They could be doing negative self-talk all day. They could be binge eating. They could be, doing anything that is negative to their body and their health is what they could be doing. And again, personally, I don't really believe that alcohol is an essential service. Like I said, however, I am me.
Right.
I didn't grow up in a home, with alcohol being served every day, every night.
Right.
I, even in college and stuff, I was not the drinking girl. I was always, people would be like, oh, how much have you had to drink? I'm like, absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
I am already
high on life.
You don't want to see me. You want to see me drink because I'm already crazy.
Well, that's the thing. I think because we're so high on life,
Yeah.
Like, I don't need alcohol to set me on fire because I'm already happy. So I know when I'm drunk, I just fall asleep. So first of all, I'm a boring drunk. That's the first thing.
You're hilarious.
I'm more exciting when I'm just clean and sober. And I too don't really see the reason for to each their own. I don't see how alcohol is essential service, but whatever. I don't want to, step on anybody's toes.
Yeah, I think that right now, more than ever, the government should be throwing money at things like counselors.
Did you throwing more money on bank accounts?
And, well,
just naturally.
But I think that should be more of a thing, because that, in the end, is what's going to save all of us, is our mental health.
Yeah.
And, because as long as that's together, once we are free to be out of our homes, we can all be in the right mindset to go rebuild and, start our lives.
That's what you always tell me. A healthy mind is a healthy everything.
Yeah,
it is. I agree.
Mind, body, soul.
I agree.
It's all connected, and if one thing
it's all connected,
it's all off.
Yes, I agree with you guys. I do feel that, after the pandemic of COVID is over, mental illness is going to be quite a monster.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you had to spend it with, an abuser or by yourself. Like, that's
the other part, right? Like, for people, like, my mother's by herself, and I check up on her, I call her, and, taught her how to WhatsApp call and all that stuff. And, you're so right. You think about those who already were still on the edge. We're on the edge, and now you have them at home locked down, may have lost their job, getting, this nice stimulus check, which is nice, CRB. But again, the liquor store is open, so I'm gonna go buy a bottle, and then a bottle might turn into another bottle, which turns into another bottle, because you don't want to have to deal with the reality of your situation.
Exactly.
Right? You're dealing with being alone, and the feelings that being alone may cause, and then the anxiety that now being alone, stuck in your house, and then you're listening to the news all the time, and the negativity that's coming, and the images that you're seeing, the death toll that you see, and the rising. That is just within itself such a big thing. Dion was saying something. They know if the liquor stores aren't open, there'd be no theft and suicide.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting.
That's actually quite
true
too.
It's
thank you, Dion, for that.
The thing is yes, Dion, thank you for your take on this. I do think that we live in a world where when alcohol was being bootlegged, back in the days, in the 1920s, it created a crime war. It was literally the reason why people were getting shot. Just based on alcohol alone. So alcohol very much kind of, in a way, rules our world, and the government depends on the money. And we have a lot of people that depend on drinking alcohol many times a day, every day. Are these people bad? I'm definitely not saying that. Their behavior maybe isn't what I think is good for them. But at the same time, the government, I think right now, is under the pressure of how do we keep things okay without getting protests going.
That's true.
Because already in the US, they're protesting, and they're already out here, like, not practicing
side by side
protesting on the streets.
With no mask on.
They have a president that's even
more eager,
pushing them to protest.
He said they're great people. They're really good. Remember, how they were really good people in Charlottesville, Virginia, when they ran over people? Really good people. We don't have to go there, right? Really good people who are putting people's lives in danger, right? Because at the end of the day, this whole situation is highlighting cracks within our political system, but cracks within our own lives. Carcini, you said it best when, they say you're supposed to have 3 months of savings, and I've heard up to 6 months of savings. You're supposed to have this, and everything, and a lot of us have walked through life with rose-colored glasses. I know I have. I got my rose-colored, my pink dress on today. But we've walked through life with these rose-colored glasses, and we've convinced ourselves that everything is okay and all is well, and my life is good. And what this lockdown did is it shattered this concept that you had of no, everything is good. And the home and you have a really great paint job, but you look really close, you're like, oh, this wasn't perfect. Now it's all of these cracks that we're seeing in what was a really good system or a really nice home or a really nice this. It's highlighting that. And, you know, for some of us, it's great because it's saying to us, hey, okay, I've got some things I can work on. Let me go work on them.
Exactly.
I think that's awesome. I know that all three of us have done and done great things with the time on lockdown. But for those who it's truly impacting, they really now need to ask themselves some questions and make some tough decisions and quickly. Because if we're in this lockdown for another 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and like I said, I've reconciled myself until September, and that's even scary for me, right?
We're still not getting out until September. We might as well face the reality. We might as well
in Florida, they're on the beaches right now.
Yeah, that's you know what? I could talk about that for about 3 hours.
That should be a show in itself.
You know, I have
that needs to be a topic.
I have an entire thing about how the U.S. is handling the situation, but again,
cracks in the foundation, right?
Yep.
You start seeing, and that's what it is. It's all you start now highlighting and going, okay, this perfect picture of whatever it was is no longer there. Dion saying he was to start his rally soon without social distances because, oh no, of course, because this is all about Trump, right?
So, yeah, you know, I'm going to say this, it has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about, but Donald only cares, and that's, you notice I call him Donald.
Well, yeah,
I don't call him Mr. Trump. I don't call him President.
There's no respect for him.
President.
No.
His name is Donald.
He hates black people, so why should we even give him a time of day?
And
he's a racist.
And Donald,
and a bigot.
Donald cares about becoming president again. And what he fears is that COVID is going to ruin his chances of throwing rallies so he can win another presidency and win another 4 years. And he doesn't actually care about people because he's never struggled in life. Everything was given to him. He was given money.
There you go.
His father already created the Trump brand. His father gave him everything. So he doesn't know what it's like to not be able to pay a water bill. He doesn't know what it's like to say I can't get to a place because I don't own a car. I don't have enough money for the bus. He doesn't understand these stories. He don't know what that's about. So, you know, I believe that the leader of a country should love people first.
Exactly so.
He doesn't love people. So that's
it's hard to love people
the way they are in the States.
Well, remember, the same man that didn't wear masks.
He's a narcissist. Narcissists don't love anyone but themselves. They use other people to get them to where they are. Like Donald Trump, and I think he's relevant, Donald Trump is almost the typical abuser, right? No, this is serious. Like, he's abusing this country. He's a typical abuser.
Well, just look at his wife. Look at his wife, and you know that, like, this poor woman, I would love to see her break a beautiful smile.
She never will. Not as long as she's married to Trump. She'll never.
Even a half smile. Because if you look at it, there is a control, there's a manipulation, like, and that's what he's doing. Like, I'm glad, like, in the last 10 minutes that we have, let's talk about that. Because when you look at, like, Donald Trump is the archetype of a typical abuser. And the reality is, he's abusing 380 million people right now.
Yes, he is.
With his words, with his actions, with everything that he's doing, because the decisions that he's making only benefit him and his wants and his needs. And that's what an abuser does. It's about them. Everything you do has to be about them. Everything, it's all about them. Donald Trump goes into these press briefings with Dr. Fauci and Dr. Burr and talk all the time about everything is Obama. Obama is the reason we're in this.
We should
whatever he can come up
that should be a topic, actually.
On Fauci, Dr. Fauci, and we should have a talk about what Barack actually did in his presidency to stop stuff like this from happening. But then the idiots
Donald Trump dismantled the task force.
Girl,
dismantled the task force.
Listen,
because
there's so much coming out
this is what an abuser does.
This whole thing, and it makes you wonder why. You know why? Yes, and Dr. Fauci, they did.
Yes, he was threatening to fire him.
But then when they realized that, you know, it got wind, the press got wind and said the president's about to fire this man just because he said we could be locked up for, you know, till the fall, and he didn't want to hear that because Trump is all about numbers.
All about the economy.
He does not care about you, me, your newborn baby.
He don't care.
Your dog.
Your mama, your father, nobody.
Himself and his plug-ins.
Donald Trump showed himself to be an abuser when, I think it was last week, he had a press conference, and the press conference opened with a campaign commercial.
Oh, yes, the commercial.
And Donald stood beside the screen, and his face was like...
I was dying. He said, take it away. Take it away.
Are you really going to be up on here showing us your face saying, oh, look at me, I'm the president, and you're not?
Video I made.
That's what he did.
That guy needs...
He's a trash.
Narcissism. He is, again, the archetype of an abuser, except his abuse is to 380 million people, or how many 300 of whatever millions of people are in the U.S. who are depending on him to be able to make decisions that actually will benefit them moving forward, because at the end of the day, he's got the control and he loves it.
Oh,
right? That's what an abuser does. An abuser loves when they are the ones in control. Financially, especially. And you got to understand, Donald Trump stopped stimulus checks so that he could do what? Have a signature on all of them. I'm surprised the face isn't on them.
Like it's his money.
Like he's actually giving you money from his account.
And you know what? I do want to bring this up because, you know, and I read this in a Time article, and this was before Donald was a president. This was before anyone thought that, you know, this is when he was just rich Don. And he would lock up his wife. What was her name? Not
Ivanka. There's Ivanka and Marla and Melania.
Always had her hair up.
Ivanka.
Yeah, Ivanka. He would lock her up in the closet when they would fight. He would lock her in the closet.
He dragged her and then
he would drag her in the closet and throw her in there. This is a true story. This is not something that I'm making up. This is not from the National Enquirer.
She said it herself.
She said it herself. So
an abuser.
He is actually an abuser. So we are not BSing on Not Your Typical Girl Talk today. We are telling the truth. So,
no, it's the truth. I mean, people can look this up. It's there.
This is what an abuser does.
Ivana.
And then they try to hide behind, because he will pay everybody off to say that's not the case. This is like, he is a narcissist.
Girl.
He is like, narcissism is one of the biggest things for abusers, because they have this self-inflated ego and perception of who they
put themselves in a pedestal.
And the biggest mass murderers of time have been narcissists.
They're sociopaths.
Yeah, Ted Bundy, all of these guys.
They're sociopaths.
They feel
all nothing.
Narcissistic.
If he was holding his own child and dropped it and it fell into like a burning fire, he wouldn't care. He would just probably stand like, oh, well, that's life, and continue on his merry way, finding things to build his walls to block off Mexico.
This is going to be, like, honestly, I'm so glad we started talking about Donald Trump, because this is literally the archetype of an abuser. And, you know, it goes back to, you know, you hope the American public reevaluates their choices, like you hope anybody in an abusive situation makes a decision that, you know what, I've had enough of this. You've now shown your whole, okay, so I gotta go. It's time to go.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's there is, and this is so right. They are incapable of empathy.
Oh, yes, Stacey.
Right?
Yes,
and that's the reality. They are incapable of empathy because they don't see anybody but themselves. If it is not self-serving, then they don't care about it. They ignore it. There's nothing that they care about. And And that's when you start looking, like what I said, this is when you make decisions. The American public in November will have to make a decision. And if you are a woman or a man in an abusive relationship, emotionally, physically, sexually, mentally, all of that, you have to make a decision about, is it about you or is it about them? Because they're always going to choose themselves. They're never going to choose. Donald Trump will always choose himself. That's what he does. He had a whole campaign.
Over you.
They are going to be, you know, they are going to be the bulldog type where they come right back after they hit you. They're going to come right back and say, baby, I'm so sorry. Baby, I'm so sorry. But let me tell you something right now. What you need to do is know that they are not going to change. And if they do change, you take off.
Take off. Because they're going to, you know what? That's the thing, too. I remember.
You go ahead, leave, and let them
figure it out. They need to figure out their own life. I remember when Oprah used to be on, and when we were younger, we would watch this particular episode. I never forgot about it. And she was talking about that. There's two types of abusers. There's the bulldog abuser, who does the whole back and forth. And then there's the cobra abuser, who is Donald Trump. They hit you, and there is no apology.
Yeah, they're just like,
you're always in the wrong. There is no, I'm sorry, baby, and I'm having a bad day. They find excuses, and that's what
you did. That you burned the rice. You didn't boil the water. The water wasn't boiled well enough. The ice cubes weren't cubey enough.
The towel is not supposed to be folded in twos, right? It's supposed to be folded in fours. Bam.
Yeah, every little. Okay.
Listen. You not need to reevaluate choices. So I'm cognizant of the times I don't like it. Instagram doesn't like us to be.
Instagram is so rude.
So you know what? I want to let for the people who are online to get them to let them know what our topic for next week. This will be another big one for next week, and it is going to be about the world's relationship with China. Okay, as three Black women talking about China. If you haven't been watching the news, you need to be watching what China is doing to Black Americans and Africans in their country. Okay?
China's going to look that up right now.
It's going to be an interest.
Okay?
It's going to be a lot of interest.
China's give about people. So we're going to be another very big topic. We're going to be talking about the world's relationship with China moving forward, especially in light of the fact now there's an investigation of whether or not this coronavirus was actually made in a lab in China that got into the whole thing. So it's going to be a very big topic about the work. So y'all need to stop. Let me just tell you now, stop one of them Chinese beautiful supply stores. They want your money, but they don't care about you. You better find a black. You better start making some mayonnaise and eggs.
Let's make your own weaves.
Olive oil. Figure it out.
Because enough women that will make your units for you with hair that they source.
They source themselves from Black people. So step up.
Our relationship with China will be next week's topic, but before we go on Instagram,
yes, dear.
I am dying. Black seed, there you go. Yes. So we're gonna do our quickly, I'll say about 20 seconds or less each, talk about our takeaways from the show today, starting with Garcia.
My takeaway is I'm going to steal what I saw from Stacey here. Self-worth. As women, as men, as children, we need to know our self-worth. And if we know what our self-worth is, we are going to fight to get the treatment that we deserve. Amen. We are going to leave negative and toxic relationships.
Amen.
Amen.
For me, my takeaway is I'm going to actually say what you said when in the beginning, where the lady said, run. There's an opportunity. Like, don't worry about COVID. Right now, COVID is probably easier on you than your abuser. Run. Get out of your house. Just run, because this abuse is not worth it. Run. Don't go back.
You're so right. That was going to be mine. It was just that quote. Don't think about it. Just leave. The abuse is not going to get better over time. And under these conditions, which I think, my 64-year-old mother again says it, she has never experienced anything like this, and she's a woman from Jamaica. So get out, leave. That is it. We are running out of time. We've got 23 seconds left before they shut us down. So we are here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. us. We want to do world domination and rule the world. Thank you. And again, next week's topic is our relationship with China. And I'm going to